Well, just got the corn planter out of storage. Tractor and corn planter have been put away all winter. Gotta get it home and put the display over into the tractor here. Only a mile or so away from home here, but this tractor needs a vacuuming out, that's for sure. The last thing we did with this was planted wheat, so we got done with a grain drill, put that away, and then we bring the tractor back to where the corn planter is stored. I ended up hooking it to the corn planter and pulled it out, put some machinery away in behind it, and then we backed it back in so that we could get the corn planter out first thing this spring here. We got a hay vine and a couple of dump wagons that were parked in behind it. Usually the way it goes with this stuff, the stuff that's in the back of the shed always ends up the stuff you need first, so you end up putting stuff away, end up pulling it all back out, reorganize it, and usually it takes a day or so to put a couple units away even. The other bay, that I would have wanted to put it in, I've got the stinking skid steer in there with the tires off of it yet. Alright, I'm inside the door here, so alright, James has got this pretty well cleaned up here. This tractor here we do most of our planting with here. I gotta wash the windows on it yet tomorrow, and other than that it's pretty well ready to go. I gotta get my display up in here. My nephew vacuumed it out. I've got to get my display in here. We're running short on displays right now. We've got one unit that we had to send out for repairs, and the one that's in this, supposed to go in this tractor, is in the manure spreading tractor. So we're documenting where we're applying manure with that. We've got this thing balanced it up pretty good. we moved the tires in so that we could plant 30-inch rows, and it had one of these wheel weights on the inside, and we ended up taking it off because I worried about it hitting that damn park brake or air brake pump unit. There's a little air tank back there, and it's about borderline. It's about borderline having enough room there. And the dealer actually gave me another set of weights, another wheel weight here. I don't know what those are. I don't know if those are 450s or what, but we had a 450, another one on here, but it didn't fit. Ended up hitting the dual. We lacked a little bit to get the dual on. So we got as much on the outside of the inner wheel that we could put on there, and we ended up putting a couple on the dual as well. So yeah, 200. Yeah, they must be. Yeah, those must be. These must be 450, and this other one must be a 200 or something. But we ran this tractor across the scale. Just the tractor alone weighs 32,600 pounds. We've got the front hitch on this one because we have a front mower that we run on a 7930, and we wanted to have a second tractor that would work on that triple mower, and I ended up building this weight bracket for the front hitch here. And I don't know how many I've got on here. I think there's 20. 21. Well, why is there 21? But, well, whatever fit between that. I guess I couldn't get a spare one on there. Count these again. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Yeah, 21. There's 21 weights on there. I don't suppose I'd get another one. But that there, we can obviously just take off if we want to. But I wanted to have enough weight on the front of this to compensate for the amount of weight that planter puts on this 3-point hitch. I don't know if that 21 weights is necessary, but it's on there. So, but it's got to wash up the windows tomorrow. I cleaned out my nephew vacuumed out the cab, and I cleaned out the little box that's in next to the seat. I end up keeping all the every time I run past a new pallet of seed, I'll keep the seed bag tag just so that I have the lot number and everything else to it. So if we have any problems, we can go back to that. I was putting the lot number for the seed into my documentation, but it just got to be a hassle. I had too many varieties in my variety list because every variety was a single variety because it had a different lot number to it. So and I write down what I need to seeds per pound and all that crap, so I know where to run my vacuum. So that's that. So I'll throw these out and collect a bunch more for this year. So, well, that's gonna do it for that. So, well, we went and got the corn planter out today. This shouldn't need much. It's got to be looked over, obviously. The seed opener discs, they aren't ready to be changed yet. We checked them out last year, but they still got a little ways to go. I've got a box full of them over in the other building here. And we had a guy drop injector tips off for the manure tankers here earlier today. But This is just going to need some air pressures checked on tires, the closing wheel. Positioner levers, they ought to all be put where they're supposed to go. I usually just release these off while they're setting all winter. We put new fertilizer discs on last year, about 3/4, 7/8 the way through the season. And I had to, I ended up rebuilding all the damn bearings in these fertilizer disc hubs. They were all pretty well whacked, and as far as greasing goes, we grease this before we put it away. So that should be ready to go. You know, I got to pull the plugs out of the vacuum tubes and stuff like that. I got the seed metering unit itself. This is got vacuum meters on it. I go ahead and I release these all these little lockdowns that hold the seed disc in. I release that because they are spring loaded, just so that there's not a lot of pressure put on that seed disc. So they're only half set like that, but they've got to actually be turned. You know, locked in place, clicked and locked in place like that. But I got to go ahead and just make sure there isn't any rat shit in there or anything. We cleaned these up there pretty well last year before we put it away. So that's that. We'll run a brush down through our seed tubes too. This planter's got pneumatic downforce on it, so it's got that compressor on there, that was mounted on the back frame of the planter here. We put the in-furrow application unit on there. That's that 300-gallon tank that's sitting on there. We run it's mainly pop-up through that. They've got the little drop tubes that drop down through to the back of the seed tube there, and it drops the product that we're using into the seed trench. I'm not exactly happy with the pump I've got on this one for that in-furrow product. I've got to go and add another pump. I'm only able to put about 4 gallons or 4.5 gallons of material down. I've got to get a second pump and split that system so that I can put a little more product down than that. But it's a Schaefer setup that we went and put on this one, and previous planter that I had, we did the same thing with it too, but that was only a 12-row unit. That single pump system is right at its max for putting down the amount of product that it's putting down, blowing it out 16 rows here. So you know, like I said, if we want to put more product down, we're going to have to throw another pump in there. So but this tank unit here, that we made the frame and whatever to put it on the back of the planter, and half-ass plumbed it all in, and then we made the bracketry to mount that air compressor up in between the two tanks. So it's got a 300-gallon tank on there for our in-furrow product, and the 600-gallon tank that we run our side-by-side through. Up front here, we very rarely fill it right to the max. This planter gets heavy, awful heavy. I did see a track system on a planter that was at the farm show, and I didn't end up pricing the tracks, but it would be a pretty good idea because there's a lot of side compaction with the amount of well, compaction in general, but you know, we're not planting or the top of our tires, but it is pushing a lot of side compaction on the rows that are to either side of those tires on this main frame. Now, these tires, just like our old planter, we ended up tubing all the stinking tires on it because they just would not hold air unless they had the tubes in them. I don't know if anybody else is running into that trouble. We tubed the other planter, and we ended up tubing this one too, but we didn't. I haven't checked the air pressures yet, but I didn't put any air in them. I just went and pulled it out of the shed it was parked in. But prior to putting the tubes in, Christ, the tires would go down. We'd have to add air to them a couple times during the planting season, and it was quite a job to, get all the stinking tires off in there and go through that process. But ain't got to worry about it now. So now just a little grease on the chains, and check my air pressures on everything. Yeah, that drive tire for the for the fertilizer is that's a little soft. So just minor things, and we'll be ready to go. Not that we got any ground that's even remotely ready anyways. Yeah, we'll be probably the 10th of May before we end up getting any seed corn in the ground. I'd like to put a little bit of seedings in. That's if that pans out. So, well, that should about do it for the walk around of the corn planter here.